Good evening. The main headline tonight is that the ping-pong stage of the bill, it went to the House of Lords this past week, and they have now pinged it back to the House of Commons. Nothing changed in respect of children not in school. So if you want to know the status of the bill in respect of home education, go back and watch our live video from last Friday, the 20th of March. That should still be linked on the page. We also have a YouTube channel called the Home Education Channel, where you can also find that video. Okay? Go and watch that, because there we cover all the things that have now gone back to the House of Commons. But in respect of home education, the things that we expected to be in there are in there. Baroness Barron did try her again to get her amendment through, and she was unsuccessful. So what remains of the bill that is still up for debate is the amendments on allergies, a new amendment in terms of, I think it's siblings, in something about sibling care or something like that. It's to do with children in care anyway. And then we've got the whole big social media hot potato, and then some bits on the uniform. So what can we do right now to try and delay this bill? Because at the moment we know that the King's speech is going to happen on the 13th of May. And then we've got this prorogation thing.
Yes, let me just stop myself in a minute. What's happening now is we're on a 2-week recess for Easter. And then the King's speech is scheduled for the 13th of May. But before that, they have to close down Parliament. They haven't given us the date for that yet.
Yes, so
prorogation is the period after it's closed down, so it's from the point that it's closed to the point that it opens again, and no parliamentary business can take place during that period. And the King's speech is what opens Parliament again, and that's when the King says, my government will do this and my government will do that, and then their government hopes to manage to do all of those things in the next term of Parliament.
Yes, and so it marks the end of a parliamentary session. It is the formal name given to the period between the end of a session of Parliament and the state opening of Parliament that begins the next session. So if they don't request a carryover movement to carry the bill over, this could be a good thing. But I think at the moment they're fairly confident it's all going to go through, and so that hasn't happened at this stage. If we can create more delays with this bill, it could work to our favor. So how can we delay? I think our biggest chance of delaying anything on this bill is to do with the amendments around social media. So Lord Nash in the House of Lords, he put in some amendments that have kind of set the cat amongst the pigeons a little bit. And so now you can write to your MPs with your views on social media. You don't have to express a unified view. You can write with whatever your view is, whether you agree with it or not, but you do need to go and do your research. You do need to understand what falls under the name of social media. It's not just Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. It's a lot of things like YouTube and a lot of things that are just linked to internet use that could fall under that heading.
And my understanding is the actual definition in the Act is any online platform, basically. That's what they use.
Yes. So what we would like you to do for your action this week is go and do a bit more research. Go and look up what the amendments are. Go and read them. Have a think about how this could impact you, particularly as home educators. That does have impact because we do use the internet a lot as well for our studies and learning. But even if you have children in school, you need to think about it. And there are many pros and there are many cons. You know, we all know there's pros and cons to these things. So have a think and write your MP a letter expressing your views and asking them what you think they should do, how you would like them to vote in respect of this amendment, because that is basically our hope lies in this being debated for slightly longer than anyone ever anticipated. And it was introduced very late. There's plenty that hasn't been debated about it at all. Through the whole of last year, they didn't debate this at all because it wasn't in the bill. And it's been brought in right now, and it hasn't been debated properly. And so you need to say to your MPs, look, I want a proper debate on this. This is wrong that they haven't actually had a proper debate. They've brought it in, and I expect you as my MP to go and and represent my views. So that is your homework for this
all
week.
The MPs
please.
were saying that they really felt they needed more time on this every single time that we've heard them say anything. We need more time on this. So we need to ask our MPs definitely to allow for the majority to have their say and actually speak and go through the fine details.
Yes, somebody has said they're not sure who that is. I don't know if they're referring to Lord Nash. You don't have to write to Lord Nash unless you want to just say to him, well done, keep up the good fight. But what you do need to do is contact your MPs, because this bill is now going back to the House of Commons, where there's no Lords, just MPs. So it's time to contact your MP. If you don't know who your MP is, it's very simple to find it out. There is a web page where you can actually, I think is it called They Work For You? And
find your MP.
Yes, find your MP, and you can put in your area you live in or your postcode, and it will tell you who your MP is. And you can also find their address and write to them. Or you can email them as well. So please, begging as many of you as possible to do this, and particularly if your MP gets a few letters from several sort of constituents, that would be really helpful, because they realize that this is important. But it will affect every single one of us. It will affect every single one of us who has a child. If our children have got opinions too, if your children want to express their views, let them also write to the MP. Okay?
Also, just to interject there, it will affect more than just the children. Because in order to prove that you're not a children, you will have to also be affected by this bill if you cannot provide adequate proof that you are an adult. And so it will affect every single one of us in the country that uses the internet.
Because it's going to cross over with this whole concept of digital ID. Proving your identity, verifying your identity. I don't know about you, but I don't feel very comfortable with letting some of these big corporations have access to my identity documents and things like that. I'm not sure what they would require exactly, but we need to find out. We need to know, and we need to have our say on this. So please do contact your MP, and let's help stall this bill as much as we can. We've done an exceptional job so far with this, so well done, and let's keep going, because we do need a little miracle, and even a big one, to stop this bill right now. Moving on, this is also an interesting thing where this Conservative MP, he's having a little complaint, because he says they're expecting the local authorities to handle far too much. They've got local government reorganisation. They've got to create this is an Essex, New Greater Essex Integrated Care Board for the NHS, dealing with unprecedented demand for social care and implementing the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill. And he's even talking about calling off elections for the new unitaries next year. So these MPs and so on are complaining that actually they're recognising the burden that all of these things is going to place on them, and that they won't be able to cope with that. So that is just worth also noting, and interesting that some of these people are starting to recognize, actually, wait a minute, this is going to put a lot on us to do. Yeah. Just to the response to that question was that we are committed to the timetable that I've set out to the House. So Labour have got a big plan for how they're going to make sure all of these things are going to happen.
I think I've got a translation for that. It's la 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 la. Which is what they've been doing all the way.
I was thinking.
Yes, well, the thing is they keep saying that we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and we're going to implement this and that, and from everything we've seen, it has not been properly thought through. And I think they're going to find all the holes in their plans very, very soon, and I think the knock-on effect is going to be huge. But one can only hope, and hope not too many people are harmed along the way while they're sorting themselves out. Okay, so then just a couple of interesting news articles. There was a really good one, I thought, from the BBC. What I thought was good about this is you've got parents saying, listen, this is what it's going to do. This is going to be the impact. And they've got a few case studies, and none of them are really where they've twisted the stories or anything. It's a good article. And really talking about Barnsley, who are trying to reduce their home educators by 30%, and it's responding to that as well and saying, actually, how can you do that? You can't just put a figure on it, because you're not looking at the individual circumstances of people and why they're home educating. But then along in this article, so it's got a good few stories. It's got a little bit on, does your council aim to reduce home education numbers? And you can go and find, they've obviously done a freedom of information request to all these councils, and you can go and see what your council had to say is whether they have an aim to reduce home education numbers. I was pleased to see that in my council, they recognise the legal position and respect it. You can go and have a look. If you scroll down a little bit more, I think you'll come to the bit where you can go and search your council. So does your council aim to reduce home education numbers? So you can go and look up your council. And then further on down, it also shows how high is your local authority's rate of elective home education. So you can compare your local authority to the sort of national average, I guess. Yeah, pick one there. You can kind of compare. Maybe
I'll be going through those with a very fine tooth comb and making sure that they actually are real.
Okay, but if you look at Barnsley is above the national average, if they are to be believed, because some of these councils, they put children missing education in with the home educators.
I think somebody mentioned, was it Thurrock the other day?
Yeah.
They were quite concerned, and I said it was about 8%, which is lower than the national average.
Yeah.
Sorry,
there was
8% is not lower than the national average.
8% increase.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Whereas somebody else mentioned a different council and it had nearly 15% increase. So they were higher than the national average. And that's why the BBC chose them specifically to do an article on.
Yes. So just above this table, there's some quotes from Michael Charles, who's a solicitor that many of us have come to know because of his common sense voice during this whole children's wellbeing in schools bill that we've been dealing with. And he's quoted about that the council is failing in their duty towards children if parents feel they have no choice but to home educate, because schools could not accommodate their children. And I think the crux of the matter is people would not be home educating if this education system was working for the children and benefiting the children. It's the children that are being failed. That is why people are home educating to the extent that they are. If your children were happy, it wouldn't be a problem. So I found it quite a well-balanced article, to be fair, and worth a read. And then we also had this article from South Tyneside, which talks more specifically about this council. And this is a very interesting article and also not entirely negative, because they said there's 404 pupils. And then this article kind of breaks it down, and it's quite possible this is linked to the BBC article, because you'll probably find a lot of these articles popping up around the country now referencing their specific figures off the back of the BBC article. That happens sometimes. They give the reasons right here. This is where kids have been pulled out, 47 for mental health reasons, 46 due to lifestyle choice, 18 due to dissatisfaction with school, 16 due to anxiety. And then the interesting thing about this section that's on the screen now is at the year group, the highest number of children being electively home educated is year 11 with 105, followed by year 10, year 9, year 8, and year 7. Secondary school is where the highest figures are. Something is very wrong and broken with the system at secondary age.
It's not something, we all know what is wrong with secondary school.
Yeah.
But again, la 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 la.
Nobody's interested here. And then the very last paragraph is particularly interesting. Of the 404 pupils currently being home educated, it tells you how many are boys and girls. The council has no current social care involvement with 403 of those. So out of 404 children, only one is known to social care. Now, if that doesn't make our case, I don't know what does. Because the constant argument coming from the government has been about how, children at home educated are at risk and vulnerable, and can, the parents have, are cooking up all kinds of evil things.
We don't know how that child's got onto the social care involvement. It could be voluntary. It could be a child in need. Yes. But it could also be something else. But we don't know.
Many things. I mean, I know sometimes there's been a custody dispute, and the MASH team will get involved. Mm-hmm. So it can be something where there's actually just been the slightest involvement. So this to me is actually quite a good article, and actually might be worth sending to your MP as well. I mean, even though we can't vote on these things anymore, and they're not voting on the home education stuff, we should still educate them. And it's a good article to just highlight that this is not an issue. If I think of children in school, say if there were 404 children in school, I can guarantee you there's more than just one that's got social care involvement. So it's a good article. Okay, I think that is it for this evening. Does anyone have anything to add?
I did write to the Children's Commissioner and received a response, although it wasn't a very timely response. I have now received a response from her, and it was less than satisfactory, the response. I will just leave it at that.
Yeah, it didn't. They're not listening.
Did you write to her about the bill? You've not told us what you wrote to her about.
No, about the consultation. So when we raised lots of concerns in the action group about the way in which this consultation passed. Good point. The consultation about the social media, she basically said, oh, well, that's so-and-so's duty to ensure that is accessible for all, especially for the children, rather than actually addressing the problem herself and being an advocate for children, which is what her job is.
Yeah, because it's not very accessible to children or probably to people who might have learning disabilities as well. It may also be challenging.
Well, it was the fact that it demanded the child give their full postcode and identifying factors. And the Children's Commissioner... Well, exactly. The Children's Commissioner should have taken that on board and been a champion for children. I've lost all faith in her. I really have. It's utterly disgusting. That is her job.
I never had any faith in her to start with, but anyway, there you go. I also want to just mention that I'm part of another project where we're trying to do something to help with whatever direction this goes in, but to do something positive in respect of home education and how it's represented. And I'm going to actually be asking on the action group for some case studies. They can be totally anonymous, but of good and bad practice in different local authorities. So for people to give examples of good practice and bad practice. So that's going to go into a piece of work that I'm involved in with some other people. So if you see me asking for that on the Home Education Action Group, please respond if you have some examples to share. That would be really helpful. So I think that is us for the evening. It's been a fairly short one, but we made up for it last week with our over an hour long one. Those of you who are taking a break over Easter, just enjoy it, and let's hope the sun comes out to play. And yeah, we should be back next Friday evening. No, will we be back next Friday evening? It's Good Friday, so possibly not.
No, I think 2 weeks.
Yeah. It'll probably be in 2 weeks' time. I won't be here. I will be enjoying the sun in another part of the world. But I'm sure these other lovely ladies will be here to keep up the good work. Have a lovely break. Enjoy your Easter. And don't eat too much chocolate, I guess.
Yeah. See you after Easter, folks. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.